Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why is the middle class shrinking? Why are people facing an affordability crisis while marginalized individuals called informals grow in numbers? Join me as I travel the world, speaking with people living in invisibility, the leaders working to solve it, and uncovering the hard truths shaping our economy and daily reality.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good morning, America. This is John Katzmatidis, and I'm here on a Sunday morning with Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz is a longtime friend, and we've known each other for almost forever. And he is now the director of the Medicare and Medicaid divisions of our country. He has a lot of concerns, and the concerns being fraud. We all want to take care of our elderly, all our elderly. We want every elderly person to live long and prosper, as my friend Dr. Michalos says. But we don't want to have fraud, and that's one of the important things. And President Trump, besides his normal work, has given him an assignment that there's excessive fraud in the system. How do we take care of it? Well, Mehmet, the famous Dr. Oz, you had a career in medicine. People used to fly around the entire world to come see you to have surgery. Yep. And you had a career in television. You had a career in, you were an author. And now you're in charge of saving the world medicine-wise. Tell me how you feel about that.
It's the best job I've ever had. And all the other jobs you mentioned, I adored as well. But when you have so many people completely aligned to try to make the country healthier and better and stronger and appreciate the magnificence of what America has been and why our health is part of that story, you get passionate. I mean, I get up every morning. I cannot wait to get to work. I'm surrounded by folks, even the full-time, long-term bureaucrats, that's what they would be called, they actually are passionate. They've given up high-paying jobs outside of government because I run the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So these guys they're insurance experts. They are actuarials. They understand how to run massive programs. And Medicare and Medicaid, if you put them together, it's almost $2 trillion of expenditures. It's the largest bucket of money that our government spends. And it's the crown jewel of our social safety net program, which is why the president is so passionate, as you said, about making sure we protect it. If you truly love our children, 53% of kids in America are born into Medicaid. If you truly, or CHIP, if you truly love our seniors, as you mentioned, you want them to be healthy. But if you have fraud that is rotting the foundations of the system, then the program won't be there when people need it. And so because the president, and I'll quote him, loves and cherishes Medicare, because we want to protect Medicaid, we have gotten serious about fraud that has been around for a while, but after COVID really exploded in its importance. And now, overall, if you include even commercial insurance, maybe $300 billion is lost through fraud, waste, and abuse. Just in Medicare and Medicaid, we estimate it's about $100 billion. The magnitude of this money and its impact on our affordability of health care is important to highlight. The average person watching right now, their family spending about $27,000 for health care. They pay out of pocket maybe $7,000. But a lot of that's driven by the fraud. So you're paying for bad people to steal money. And again, the insurance companies aren't paying it out of their pockets. They're going to charge you for it. And because we have government rules that weaken our ability to enforce the sanctity, the integrity of Medicare and Medicaid, and because some governors have not been serious about this problem. And I'm specifically going to single out Walz in Minnesota, Gavin Newsom in California, Governor Hochul here in New York, where we sit today. We have the problem in Maine, but we also have problems in red states. But nevertheless, we have got to be able to get our arms around these issues. And I'll give you one number that's going to blow your mind. New York State, per resident, has the highest expenditures for Medicaid by far of any state.
I understand it's 80% higher than the average of the country.
Can you imagine that?
I understand that Florida, that has 24 million people, versus New York State, that's down to 19.8 million people, and you got more elderly in Florida. We all know that. Right. Florida in 2024 was 2025 $33 billion, and New York State was $100 billion. How can that happen?
Well, that's the question we should be asking our leaders. I'll give you some clues. I think it is political patronage, and it's a jobs program. Why do I think that? The number one job in New York State, the number one job is not retail anymore. The number one job is personal care services. And these are directed by the patients. So if you're on Medicaid and you're having problems balancing your checkbook, or getting overwhelmed by stuff, you can actually hire somebody. The state will do it for you, and they'll bring them in and they'll help you get through your day. Now, sometimes you need that, right? It's better than having you go to a nursing home. But the amount of people put into these jobs, it's so beyond what any other state even considers doing, that at least someone ought to be looking at why this is happening. And there are major concerns being raised about why New York State would allow that many people to be hired into these jobs that historically your family would do for you.
But triple the amount of Florida. It was just mind-boggling when I saw the numbers. And, we all want all our elderly people. And, I'm older than you, but we're both getting up there at some point. We care about the elderly. We want them to get the right health care. But fraud is not acceptable.
Well, in New York State, it's a good example. There are these places you go when you get older for rehab or dietary advice or just to hang out. There's all these older homes, senior living facilities, but they're outpatient. You just go there, stay for a little while, and then go back home. And there's about $1.2 billion spent in New York State, but it seems like it's all actually being spent in Brooklyn and Queens. So what's giving? It turns out there have been some now federal investigations that have proven there's tens of millions of dollars being stolen by the proprietors. These are small-time shops. If you drive down the road in middle of Queens, you'd see these shops. You wouldn't think much of them. They're generating $60-70 million in bills. Now, could you truly take care of that many seniors? What are you actually doing for them? These are manufactured. And by the way, it's not just here in New York State. We saw what happened in Minnesota, where autism services were projected to be about $3 million a year. They would pay moms to lie that their children had autism. $1,000 if you lie and say your kid has autism. So we can now bill the government, which is basically federal government, because they bill the state, but the state passes the bill to the feds. So all taxpayers, even here in New York, are paying for $400 million of autism care services in Minnesota. A program that's supposed to be $3 million. Let's take hospice. The number of hospices in California, just in Los Angeles, forget about all of California, just in Los Angeles is about 2,000. The entire country is 6,000. So you have...
That is mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
That is...
How many people are dying in L.A.? It's impossible to have that many hospices. And here's the part that drives you batty. No one dies in these hospices. Hospices are for people at the end of life. No one's dying because they're lying. They're signing up people falsely. They trick people into signing up. They charge a lot of money to the federal government, taxpayers in New York and around the country. And, red states and blue states, doesn't matter. All the taxpayers are funneling money to Los Angeles because they're not taking hospice fraud or home health care fraud seriously. In South Florida, we have twice as many durable medical equipment suppliers. People who sell you wheelchairs and canes, twice as many as McDonald's. Come on. Is that really possible? Why would you not want to go after this if you truly care about the sanctity of these programs? And again, the president's laser focused on affordability. We've done a lot of other things for affordability. We have drug pricing negotiations where we no longer are paying 3 times more than any other country for the same drugs. We've done things around transparency. We're getting serious with insurance companies. All these things that are heavy lifts, but the fraud, it just drives you wacky, because that's the kind of a problem that all of us should be equally focused on. And this should not be a partisan problem, but has now become one. And Democrats hide behind the accusations that we're not doing this because we care about the sanctity of the programs. But that is the only reason we're going after these problems.
Now, shouldn't it be solving the fraud situation? Shouldn't that be bipartisan? Is it, or is it not? What's happening?
Well, we believe political patronage is part of the problem. If you're a governor and not offending an important constituents, or getting those constituents to be more supportive of you, or maybe potentially getting a union and public union involved and letting them feel better about how things are going, or a private union as well. These are all accusations that are out there. I can't attest to those, but there do seem to be reasons why governors are looking the other way. Certainly in Minnesota, there was a lot of accusations. There still remained that the accusations that whistleblowers were driven out of the Department of Health.
I've heard that.
In California, the governor has ignored continuous calls for action from his own auditors to deal with these problems, and yet whether it's the Russian mafia or other groups, they seem to have been able to get him to look the other way. And here in New York State, there is without question a tremendous amount of pressure on Governor Hochul to not in any way interfere with the many moneyed interests who profit when you are spending a lot more money than any other state, per beneficiary on Medicaid.
Dr. Mehmet Oz, the other thing, the number that always sticks out for me is New York State, New York City, the budget is $260 plus 127. That's $400 billion for 19 million people, 19.8. And Florida, the whole state is only 119 billion, which is almost quadruple in New York. For 24 million people in Florida. There are certain numbers that just stick out and tell you something is wrong.
But someone's got to point to it. And I guess I'm a heart surgeon. I live on numbers. I look at the heartbeat, I look at the blood pressure, I look at the saturation of oxygen, all numbers. The numbers are not adding up in New York State. You just gave a very, very good example. But I can give you and regale the audience with dozens of numbers, all of which point to the same reality. There's a rot in the system. The fraud that we see in New York State it's not a flaw, it's a feature for some people. They don't mind the fraud or they would have done with it. John, listen, we've been around long enough. When really smart people don't fix a problem, it's because they don't want to fix the problem. It's not an accident, and that's what we're witnessing. So the letter
that's what you call that if they take care of the elderly, if they take care of certain groups, take care that there's more contributions and the political aspect comes into play.
It's not that the seniors want it, it's the folks providing the services that we believe are profiting wrongly, and they're empowering bad apples to take action. And this is why enough of us have to put our hands up and be counted. If you're a brave American who loves our country, you should be curious about how New York State could be so far off from other states and how they're spending money, and then get serious about what would motivate this. Because across the board, whether it's taking care of, allegedly taking care of people in their homes with personal care services, or home health care, or a slew of other softer services that your family would normally provide for you, where it's harder for the government to audit whether it's really done, those are the places where we're seeing massive explosion in fraud. And again, these aren't just Americans. These are foreign citizens doing this. Foreign governments are probably involved. When we do these big busts, the perpetrators flee back to Russia, or other countries.
Dr. Mehmet Oz, thank you for everything you do for America. Please thank Secretary Kennedy, what he does. And also, please thank President Trump when you see him. Because without President Trump, without Secretary Kennedy, without Dr. Oz yourself, America is going to be a better place because of that. Thank you so much.
God bless you, John. Thanks for all you do.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our country has to offer, especially health care. Across every state, every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.